Hey everyone, and welcome to Made of Stardust. I'm your host, Jolie Goodnight, and this is a podcast about people who aspire to inspire. Each one of our guests has something special about them, a spirited spark to them that breathes life into the people they inspire. After all, that's what the word inspire originally meant, to breathe life into. This podcast is supported by listener support, so go to joliegoodnight.com/podcast to help keep Made of Stardust shooting for the stars. Get access to exclusive content every month and all the fun goodies. My guest today is Tammi Savoy, an award-winning Chicago-based international retro vintage vocalist who sings soul, jazz, blues, and jump blues. Imagine a woman with a powerful, soulful voice that nails the classic 40s, 50s, and early 60s rock and roll R&B sounds. Now, match that with a great stage presence and a perfect visual adherence to mid-century vintage style. That's Tammi Savoy. What made me want to interview her today is her ability to project ease. Her vintage style, her buttery voice, everything she does is with a smooth air of graceful composure. I'm endlessly inspired by her sense of impeccable style, and anytime she steps on stage, I'm excited. Before we dive into our conversation, I have to tell you, I got too excited talking with her and I forgot how to read time and our chat was cut way too short. Oops. Guess we'll just need another podcast episode. Anyway, please welcome Tammi Savoy. Hey, Tammi Savoy, how are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad
Yes.
you're on. You look absolutely gorgeous. I love seeing what you're wearing at all times on your Instagram feed and everything. You got such good style.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for Made of Stardust, what I've been doing here with the podcast is just giving folks a big dose of inspiration, especially because, times are hard, times are weird, times are whatever they are. And I woke up one day and realized that I just could really use some of my favorite folks and some of the people who inspire me the most, like just their insight and I don't know, I just want to hear from people that I really like. So I wanted to ask you, um, what did you aspire to be when you grew up?
You know what? I actually had no idea, to be honest. I had no idea. I just knew that I wanted to get out of my hometown. Like my goal was to just like graduate with honors and go to school out of state because I grew up in Minnesota. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's freezing cold. And I was just trying to get away. So, but when I was younger, I used to sing a little, but I was very shy. So I didn't know whether I would do that or not. And for a while, I actually didn't. Yeah. So, I mean, but I do remember, when I was younger, I used to want to be a social worker. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Because that's
cool.
what Yes, because that actually helps me get through high school. Like sometimes I would skip lunch just to go speak to my social worker. And I always wanted to do that, but it just never happened. But then as I got older, I realized that what I do, like I can touch so many people. And like if
Yeah.
I would have just been a social worker, it would have just been one person at a time in the office, whatever. But
Yeah.
like I feel like what I'm doing now can touch so many more people. So I'm kind of glad that I decided to do the singing thing. Yeah.
It's funny, it does not surprise me that you wanted to graduate with honors. I feel like one of the things that inspires me a lot about you is that you have um, just this I don't know, in English they call, or like in England, they say it's tickety-boo. Like so much about you is
Oh,
very tickety-boo, and I think that is such a cool, this like, not perfection, because I almost feel like that's a negative word sometimes, but you have this quality
mhm.
that just makes everything feel like beautifully in order, if that makes sense. What did you want to go to
Oh,
school
thank
for?
you.
You said that you wanted to like get out of there, get out of town, and did you end up going to college?
I ended up going to college. Yes, I actually ended up in Chicago on a road trip, and I was with a few friends. And right after high school, like we went to look for colleges. I ended up going to Robert Morris. At the time, it was called, I think it was called Robert Morris College, because they've changed their name so many times now. But I think at the time it was RMC. Um, but I went for graphic arts and design. Yeah. And
Oh,
I had no
cool.
idea what I wanted to do at the time. I just picked something. And I knew
Yeah.
it would have something to do with art, because I've always been into art my whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. So what okay, let me back up for a second. What are all the things that you do now? Because I know you do quite a bit, at least that I see. What is it that you do in this point in time in life?
Well, right now I'm mostly singing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I have done a lot of things. Like my friends make fun of me because I'm always saying that I retired from a lot of different jobs. Because I also went to school for I went to pastry school at one point, and I was doing like, cake decorating and pastries and stuff like that. I retired from that. I was also a face painter at one point. And I
What?
also was an assistant manager at a health food store at one point. Um, but I actually left that job to do singing full time. Yeah.
Wow.
So
So
that's what I've
what
been
led
doing.
you to singing full time? What's the road? What's the path then going from school and graphic design and pastries? How did you get here?
It's so crazy because I never really thought like I would be able to do the singing thing full time, to be honest. Even though I grew up with brothers that were in the industry, and they are actually quite successful with what they're doing. They still do it. They still tour. But it wasn't something that I really took seriously at first, I guess. And I went from I started this whole thing from a pinup calendar, to be honest. I started because I did a
Oh.
calendar for my husband, and after that, the photographer, um, she contacted me, and she's like, I know someone that has a band, and he's looking for a girl to be in the video. So I was like, okay. So she asked if it was okay to send him the information. So I'm like, all right. And so the person who she sent this to was Lance Lipinski, and he was recording a video at the time. He had two girls already, and he wanted a third girl just to complete, the look and
Mm-hmm.
have the harmony and everything like that. So I was supposed to lip sync for this video. And when I got there, we never did. Like, we actually sang the song. And like right after the first take, the girls, they turned, they looked at me, and they're like, "So, what are you doing on Saturday?" And I'm like, working? I don't know." And I've been doing shows with them ever since. Like, it was just like just perfect harmony after the first take, and we just been singing with each other ever since. And from there, that's when I decided to just leave my job, because I was, at the health food store, and I decided to leave because it got to be kind of too much, because I was doing both, trying to juggle both. And then I also have a daughter as well. So it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to take care of her, trying to work this full time job, and also doing gigs and everything. It was just too much. So I was like, something has to give. So I
Yeah,
finally
yeah.
decided to just do the singing full time, because it was too much.
Yay. I love when
Yeah.
that happens. It's like I
Yes,
feel
and
like
it's
that's
so
the
crazy how it came together. Like, I wasn't even expecting to even sing with them, and then I'm just going there to do a video, and then all of a sudden now I'm doing all these shows. It was crazy.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow, you really you jumped in. You went from like
I
photo
jumped
shoot
in.
to that, which that's a big show. That's a pretty dang big awesome show. You have you started back up doing it again, or are y'all still on a little bit of a break?
A little. It's kind of tricky right now. I actually did just come back from doing a show in Kansas. It was an Elvis show though, but we were backup singing for the show. And that was an 11-week run. But it's like
Okay.
we it's kind of been hard though because some things have been getting canceled again. So
Sure,
we're
sure.
we're working on it. We're working on it.
Well, so
Yeah.
then what's the line from jumping in just all of a sudden doing that show to, because I know you also do more of a solo project. What led you
Mhm.
there?
So that actually kind of just happened as well. Because I went
Showbiz.
to it's so crazy how it just happened so unexpectedly. But I actually was out one day for my husband's birthday, and we went to a show where Chris Costello was playing. And I knew Chris Costello from before because he actually played guitar for Lance Lipinski when we did shows together and everything. He was one of the sub guitarists. And so we just
Mm.
happened to go to one of his shows one day, and he asked me to come on stage and sing a song. So I'm like, okay. And there was only really one song that we knew at the time that we could do together. And after we finished, everybody's like, encore, encore. And so he's like, we don't have anything else. Like, so we couldn't do another song. But I did tell him after that show, I told him that I wanted to come out with a record. And so he was like, I can help you out with that. So really it came from me just wanting to put out a record, and people heard the songs. Like we did a rehearsal and we recorded the songs. And when people heard the songs, they wanted to book us for shows. We're like, okay, like that's not even what we were trying to do, but okay. And it just happened and we just started touring the world and that's so crazy.
That's
So
so cool.
crazy.
It's funny how sometimes it's just being at the right place at the right time, but also being really ready to say, yeah, sure, okay. Yes, yes, I'm ready to
Right.
do that. I came here to lip sync, but now I'm like gonna quit my job and do this full time.
Right.
It's that say yes thing. And then
Yeah.
also, I know, and maybe this is just that outside perspective. A big part of what you do is aesthetic as well. Like you're a pinup model, it seems like officially as well. Like you represent some brands. And so, what ended up leading you down that path?
I think after I did that first photo shoot, a lot of people saw those photos and they like reached out to me and started asking me if I can take pictures and stuff like that. So it kind of came from it all just started from there as well. And I never knew like cuz I at first I didn't even have an Instagram when I first started doing all of this stuff. But then I feel like once I got on Instagram, that's when it all kind of just like started flowing in. I'm like, okay, like I didn't really think anything of it really in the beginning when I started doing that. But yeah, I've been doing pretty good doing that as well. Yeah, and I try to fit that in as much as I can. I can't do a lot though cuz I can't do all of like I get a lot of people asking, if I can
Hmm.
do that, but I can't fit it all in. Like it's too much. It's too
Yeah,
much. But yeah, I
yeah.
try to pick and choose what I can do, what I can fit in into my schedule and stuff because it gets to be a lot sometimes. Yeah.
That's so cool. What got you into, vintage style to begin with?
I feel like I've always been into vintage style. When I was
Even
younger,
when you were
I
like a little
used
bitty?
to when I was very young, I actually got really upset with my mom because she made me um, get a perm when I was a little girl. I was like 9 years old, but I wanted like the Afro puffs because I loved like the '70s style and stuff. And I wanted Afro puffs, but my hair was straightened out. It was chemically straightened, and I couldn't do the style that I wanted. And I used to love like the '60s and '70s when I was younger. And I love the like the '50s style as well, but at the time I didn't have money, to buy it or whatever. So I would kind of like make my own clothes and like I was the type of girl that loved wearing like the bell bottoms and stuff. Like while
Hmm.
everybody else is wearing like, the skinny jeans and the hip huggers and stuff like that. I was wearing bell bottoms and making my own bell bottoms. Like I would like take fabric and like sew it into the leg to make like different pants and
Oh,
everything. Like
cool.
it was kind of crazy, but and I used to love just that kind of style. Like and I feel like a lot of that had to do with my parents as well, because I grew up listening to a lot of music from back then, and I think being exposed to that kind of made me want to, get into the styles and stuff like that. Because I used to see the Supremes on TV, and I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, I want to do that one day, not thinking that I would get older and actually be in a girl group.
Yeah,
And it
you dream
actually did
achieved.
happen. Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, I used to love that type of stuff.
Uh, because you grew up in St. Paul, right? That's what you said,
Mm,
in St. Paul, Minnesota.
yes.
Were there any
Hmm.
other folks like you that liked vintage style and all that in your area, or was it just you?
No, I honestly didn't know anybody else that was into it. No, I feel like people thought that I was weird because I always, dress different. I mean, I don't think that I mean, I don't know. I feel like I was kind of like a loner a little bit. I kind of stayed to myself a little bit. Like I had a
Hmm.
select few friends, but they were not into it the way that I was. No, I
I
mean,
feel
I
like
think
that's
I
so
think
many
that
of us.
yeah, and I think that I mean with something like I used to make things too, like the jean purses and stuff like people would think it was cool and they would like ask like, "Oh, how did you do that? And can you make me one?" Blah blah. But I don't think that they were like really into it the way that I was. Yeah.
I get it. I think that goes for so many of us. I was the same way, and then kind of whenever I got into college is when I met like a few more people who were into the same things. But I don't think it was even until after college that I really started meeting a lot more people that were into vintage culture and music and the whole shebang, you know. Um, but so, you know, you mentioned the Supremes. Who all are your biggest musical influences?
Ooh, that's always a tough question for me because
That's
I
why I'm
have
like
so
all of
many.
them. Like I don't need you to
Right,
say
it's
who's the
so
one.
many.
Just like who are the ones in there that made you, you know, kind of got your revved your engine, you know.
I really love Ella Fitzgerald. I love her voice, um, her style, like the way she sings and everything. And I always tell people like, I wish I could scat like that because, like, I don't know, I get nervous kind of scatting and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I love Sarah Vaughan. Who else? A lot of people that I sing covers of their songs, like Ruth Brown,
Hmm.
Veretta Dillard. Oh my gosh.
You know,
So
I'm not
many. Annie
surprised that Ella
Laurie.
is one of them for you because your voice is really buttery like Ella's. That was the first thing
Oh,
I
thank
thought of
you.
the first time I saw you was like, she has that butter quality. That's like that's a rare
That is
find.
funny
Like
because
I was
I hear
excited
that a
for you.
lot.
I was like, dang, that's
It's
awesome.
buttery. I
Yeah.
like that. I hear that a
Yeah.
lot though. And when people used to say that to me at first, I'm like, I don't understand. Like what I didn't know what people meant when they would say that at first. But I guess I can hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of women then. That's cool that you just pretty much everybody you just listed uh is in a certain range and all women. And then
There's
were
so
there
many
any
more
like
though.
I
So many more.
know, I know. That's why like the list is really long.
We
Um
can go all day.
but were there any like movies or anything that kind of brought these images and icons into your mind?
I honestly, let me see. Like I didn't really watch a lot of movies growing up, and I still honestly don't watch a lot of movies
Hmm.
now, to be honest. But I do remember this one instance when I was 9 years old, and I was at my grandparents' house, and we were watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I remember when I saw Jessica Rabbit come
Mhm.
from behind the curtain, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to do that one day." Like,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my goodness, it's kind of crazy because she's like, not real." But I just remember at 9 years old thinking like, "Wow!" Like, and how she captivated the audience. I just was like, "Man, I wish I could do that." It's so
I wonder
crazy.
when they were if they when they created that movie, if they knew how many kids were going to grow up to want to be Jessica Rabbit. Like, I'm pretty sure that's a career goal for a lot of kids.
Oh my gosh. And it's so crazy even thinking that, like, oh my gosh, like how was I at 9 years old thinking about that? you know,
Well,
it's
I
so
think part
funny.
of what made Jessica Rabbit stick in everyone's mind wasn't just the sex appeal and the audience and the dress and the gloves and everything. It was that she was so unapologetic. There was a lot of confidence to Jessica
Oh
Rabbit.
yeah.
Like, she owns the entire room. And like, it's funny to think of a cartoon as confident. But that
Right.
is one of my questions, actually, for you, because so I did this little poll asking people what's kind of been wounded for them a little bit during COVID life, like what's um yeah, what's wounded really. And almost everybody said confidence. Like, their confidence is really
Hmm.
low right now. And I was thinking about, all the people that I want to interview. And I think a lot of times whenever you dress vintage and dress really impeccably and have all these things, even if you don't feel confident, you definitely have a certain level of confidence, whether you acknowledge it or not. So I wanted to ask you, what makes you feel confident?
What makes me feel confident? Hmm. That's a good question. Ah, okay. I really don't even know how I can I can answer
Right?
that.
It's a funny
Let me see.
question. That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
ask it, because I think it's a fun one to pull out of yourself.
Yeah. That's real difficult. I'm trying to think. What makes me feel like when I dress vintage. I feel like I do feel like a level of confidence when I dress vintage. It makes me feel good, you know. Um just getting dolled up in general, I
Hmm.
feel like makes me feel real confident. But honestly, I think everybody, even if you are a super confident person, there's still like that little bit of, like, I don't know, you uncertainty, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to
Yeah.
describe. But I don't know. I've just always been the type of person that I just dance to the beat of my own drum, and I just like doing my own thing. And like, I don't know. um and at a certain point you have to just think like you can't always care about what everybody thinks about you. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's just how I've always been though. Like I was mentioning earlier, I was the only one that was into my style. So, I didn't have other people to, that were into the same thing as me like that. So, I don't know. I guess that kind of gives you the confidence.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's a little bit like the people that figured out that they were different and that was okay. They all have like a really positive version of armor to put on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, for
Mhm.
some folks, it's the way you dress is your like armor of like, all right, cool. I'm ready to go out into the world today. Um, for some people it's like
I'm
a
definitely
phrase
like
that
that.
they have, or but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, whether it's phrase or clothing or music or whatever, it's like it's an armor thing. um
Yeah.
well, so because I know you've got your little girl, right? And she also just exudes confidence in any of the videos that you post of her. She does not lack confidence. It's incredible. And so I
She
thought
doesn't.
of that with you, and I wondered if there was anything that you have taught her about that, or that's just in her already.
I think that that's just in her, really.
Yeah.
And I have always told her like, don't, don't let people get to you, because I mean, because her style is much different. It's kind of the same way like how it was with me, um, for her as well. Like even at her school, a lot of people, they're not into the same style that she's into,
Yeah.
and I've always taught her to, to be herself, and express herself in the way that she wants to express herself, as long as she doesn't go too crazy, like,
Yeah.
you know. But because there have been times when I'm like, oh, you need to take that off. Yeah, we're not doing that. But but she,
Just-
for the most part, like she's a really good with, and yeah, she's real confident, and she has always been very sassy. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I feel like she is the person that I am in my head, if that makes sense. Like I
Oh,
don't like
yeah.
a lot of times I don't say certain things. I'll keep it in my head because, my mom taught me, don't say certain things, But she is exactly like how I I don't know how to really like explain it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of times, I'm thinking like, wow, like
No,
I would
I
have
think
thought
that
that, but
totally
I would
makes
not said it
sense.
out of my mouth. you know, it's so funny. Yeah, but I love that she's the way that she is, and she has her own little style and everything. I love it. Yeah, I love
You've done a good job just from what I can see outside looking in. And so then that made me want to ask you, did you have any mentors along the way? Did you have anybody that kind of put you under their wing and kind of directed you career wise or anything?
it. Well, I wouldn't really say, well, I don't know if I would say mentors, but I will say that the people that I have had a chance to work with, um, like Lance Lipinski, I will say like he has helped a whole lot. Because even with me starting with the band, I feel like that helped me because I would sing, backup with them at first, and then later on he added solos. And I feel like when he started adding the solos, that's what helped me to, um, get out there and start, singing myself because I used to have really really bad stage fright, really bad. Like I would get out there and
Oh.
just get stiff, and like my throat would just immediately get dry, and I couldn't even move. Like it was really bad. And I think that's the reason why I wasn't singing before then. But I think the fact that I was with the
Mm,
band, and I felt comfortable with them, and I was able to sing with them at first. I think that's what helped, give me that push to do what I'm doing now. Yeah, because I think if I hadn't started there, I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't be doing this. So I feel like
yeah.
being with the band helped me. Like I think that's kind of like my mentor, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's sometimes that's all the mentor you really need is just a team of people behind you that are rooting
Hmm.
for you, especially if they believe in your abilities and believe in what you do, communicating with the audience. That having a great band behind you it can really, really make or break how you feel on stage. Is there anything that you
That's true.
do to deal with your stage fright at all? Like, is there anything you do before you go on stage? Anything you say to yourself or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I actually meditate a lot.
Mm.
Um, Yes, I did. Because I didn't mention before. I kind of got into it, but my brother also. Well, I guess he could be considered one of my mentors as well. He is in the industry. He's actually in a group called Next, and he has helped me a lot as well, as far as like, not specifically stage fright, but he's kind of a life coach too, and
Mm-hmm.
he's super positive, and he has helped me get through a lot of things. And the fact that he's also in the music industry helps a lot, because he knows what I'm going through, so he's like able to be like, okay,
Yeah.
so this is what you need to do, whatever. That helps a lot too. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's kind of everything for me personally, having family, because my mom is in the business, my brother, my dad was,
Nice.
and
Hmm.
it's intimidating sometimes to have really talented family members that are into it with
Oh
you
yes.
too, like that comes
Yeah.
with its own thing. But God, they really have been such supportive mentors in a way for me as well.
Hmm.
So I think. Oh wait. Oh no, I get to ask you this question before we get. Oh yay! I'm so excited. I don't want to miss this question. It's a good one.
Okay.
What's one of your favorite, just magical moments that you've had in your career that makes you go like, oh yeah, okay, that's why I'm doing this.
Oh, um, I feel like I've had a few of those moments. Um, wow. Let
Mm-hmm.
me try to pick. Let me try to pick. I don't want to make make this too long. But I've actually met a few people from the 50s and 60s that are in the industry as well. I had a chance to be on PBS with the girl group that I sang with, and they had Beverly Lee and Judy Craig there, and they introduced us. And then right after that, I had to sing one of Judy Craig's songs. And I was so nervous singing her song,
Mm-hmm.
because she was just right on side stage. And I remember when I finished, like we got off stage and we had a chance to speak to them and like ask them all these questions and stuff. And it was kind of cool, getting to meet someone, people who were actually, in the business as well. And I feel like they're legends. Like they were out here doing this way before us, and we got a chance to, talk to them and stuff. It was a short period of time, but it was such a good moment for me. And then I will also say, I love when I get emails from people and they tell me like, I was going through this and that or whatever, and I started listening to your music, and it just made me feel so much better. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like it just makes you feel so good that you can do that for
Yeah.
people through music. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I always say without the fans that are like that, like I might as well be at home singing into my hairbrush, because it's really about them and what you end up doing for their lives at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I feel like I've always made it a goal to make at least one person happy a day. And I feel like I achieve that goal all the time. Yeah.
Uh-oh, I think we cut out for a second. Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
there you
here.
are. Okay. All right. Well, I have one more question for you, and I'm sad because I feel like this
Okay.
flew by. I feel like this hour went so fast.
I
Um,
know.
but I hope I get to see you again soon at one of our fabulous things like Ameripolitans or Viva or
Mhm.
whatever. But until then,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what would you say to anybody who is aspiring to be anything or to do anything or to maybe make a change in their life, what would you just say to somebody who's trying to do something?
I would absolutely say go for it. Do what you have to do, because I know a lot of times people are scared because they don't know what will happen. You know, like even for me, like I used to be really, really shy. Like I wouldn't consider myself shy now, but I'm kind of reserved. I am very reserved. Um, and also an introvert, which is kind of crazy. But I still go out there and do my thing anyway. Because I feel like if it's something that you love, I feel like you should just go do what it is that you love. Because I feel like if you do that, like good things will happen. And I know that it is
Mm-hmm.
kind of scary because I know when I left my job, um, when I left my full time job at the time, I was I did kind of get a little nervous, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do this anyway. And as soon as I
Yeah.
put that message out there and I put it out there like that, I got so many opportunities coming in. It was like it was like a moment where, I guess it was just waiting for me to make up my mind that I wanted to do this.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden all of these opportunities just flooded in. So you just never know. So I say go for it and do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect. Well, thanks so
Mhm.
much for hanging out with me today and for inspiring folks. I can't wait to share this episode with people. Like your
Of
insight is
course.
beautiful. That's why I wanted to talk to you. I knew it would be.
Oh, thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Tammy. That's it for this episode of Made of Stardust. Thank you so much for tuning in. This podcast is supported by listeners like you. If you want to get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes content and all the fun goodies, go to joliegoodnight.com/podcast. Every contribution helps to keep this podcast shooting for the stars. Thanks for your support, and we hope we've inspired you today.
Take me to